my favorite part of the game.
Analyzing all of the league matchups week to week.
You can't win!
Get him a body bag! Finish him!
It is a bit above average.
I said this sucks, and basically so do you.
And discussing the boom, bust, and hidden gem players throughout the league.
We ain't found shit!
What the hell is Brett Favre doing here?
I'm in town to play the Dolphins, you dumbass.
Dan Marino should die of gonorrhea and rot in hell. Laces out.
Touchdown!
And here's your host,
Allow myself to introduce myself.
David Harbatkin. Hello and welcome to the Center Fantasy Football Podcast for week, what week are we in? We're week 5. I am your host, David Harbatkin, being joined by Mr. Gazel Lutsky. Say hello.
Oh, yes. Welcome to the Google Talk Podcast.
Yeah, we're trying something new this time. So we're using Google Hangouts to actually communicate, to try to make Gaza's voice be a little bit more clear. So we'll see if that works. It is causing a little feedback in my ear, but whatever. I'll just try to get through that. In the meantime, there's a ton of stuff to go over this week in terms of the games. I will admit that I haven't watched any games. My weekend was quite busy. I woke up at, 6 in the evening. I did check the scores throughout the weekend, but I just really didn't look at any of the games. So if I have any commentary about what happened specifically in the game, Geese, you're going to just have to help me out. Like, oh, yeah, that guy got all of his scores on one pass or something. So I don't have any of that information. A lot shuffled around this week. We have a ton of 2-2 teams, log jammed in the middle. Some stuff shifted around at the top. But in the meantime, let's go over last week's games. Which one do you want to start with first?
Let's take a look at, let's see, what's at the top of the list here? And let's start off with, I'm going to go right to Eugene. Because he was very confident prior to your matchup. And I called it upset. I actually did. He didn't really like that, but turned out to be the case.
Yeah. Well, this was the big game of the week. It was really, Eugene was in first place at the time. I believe it was in fourth. That is no longer the case, as the 1603ers win 166.66 to 126.66 over Dave's Secret Crush. The greatest quarterback of all time did not come through. In fact, getting more than 10 points, 11 points, less than his counterpart, Matt Ryan, who's actually been pretty much on fire the last couple of weeks. And a lot of people didn't come through on his team. So you had Michael Thomas only getting 8.7, 4.2 for Goodwin. Now, 34 points for Elliott, the newly acquired Ezekiel Elliott, who up to that point hadn't been doing that well. I mean, he was still doing fine. He was getting solid RB numbers, but he wasn't getting anything like this, although I think this was probably his first easy opponent. And the interesting thing is, in order to get Elliott, I don't think the trade quality that he gave in return, it was fair. It wasn't, it wasn't a ripoff, but what he actually did was hurt himself by giving away his wide receiver too. So there was nobody to, giving away the Allens, Keenan Allen and Javorius Allen. He no longer had a wide receiver too. He had Goodwin, who only got 4.20. Marshawn Lynch, he was forced to play, getting 18.7 points, which was really good, and actually who I thought Nick should have picked up in the trade, but I don't know, I guess it wasn't offered. 7.2 points from Ricky Seals-Jones, and a whooping 0 from Sammy Watkins-Yayos. I believe he went down injured in a hamstring thing, but yeah. No points from his flex there, and then 23 points from the Green Bay defense, who we picked up last week in waivers. Going into the Monday night game, I think I had a 60-point lead or something. I still didn't consider I didn't consider him out of it, because he had the greatest quarterback of all time, and had he put up like a 50-burger game, I could have, and that combined with Watkins, I could have ended up losing it. But I felt good going into the Monday night game, but I didn't feel completely secure. And then I was at the Monday wedding, of course, which had no cell phone reception. So when I finally got back into cell range and was able to check the score, I was like, oh nice, I won. But as far as the 1603ers go, 35 points from Matt Ryan, 21 from Ridley, 21 from Boyd, 30.9 from Melvin Gordon, a disappointing 9.40 points from Connor, 10.7 from Rudolph on the Thursday night, 14.9 from Fuller, who I believe went down with an injury at some point, 14 from Crosby, and 9 from the Jacksonville defense. But overall, I think, up and down, great performance by all of the players here on the 1603ers. I mean, the only single digits are the defense and John Connor, surprisingly enough. And it looks like Le'Veon Bell might actually be coming back in a couple weeks. Week 8, I believe, because it's after the Pittsburgh's bye week. But, solid performance turned in by the 1603ers, and just not quite enough by Eugene's secret crush team. Anyway, your thoughts on this game?
All right, so I think Eugene was really pushing that Mahomes deal to sell high because obviously he's the greatest player of all time. He's pretty normal right now. So last week, Deshaun Watson stayed with him. It was like 30-32 in points. All right, this week he actually got outplayed by Matt Ryan. So Mahomes, I guess, is like as good as any other quarterback out there. I'm glad nobody took the bait on that one. Michael Thomas was quiet, but he's still like one of the top receivers in the league. We'll give him that. Godwin, Tampa Bay looks horrid. I don't know what happened. A couple of weeks they were on fire, and now, eesh. So this deal to trade away Keenan Allen, I'm going to closely watch how that plays out for Eugene for the rest of the year. That was pretty interesting. Elliott blew it up, but like you said, this is the first time they actually played somebody like soft. Marshawn Lynch was great, but technically I guess Nick should have traded for him. But Allen Lynch, I guess. Ricky Seals-Jones again. There's some holes in this Eugene super team. Like you said, the glaring goose eggs for the flex. I mean, what are you going to do when the guy gets injured? But flex, tight end. McCaffrey comes back next week, so he'll have a solid running back core. But the wide receiver flex tight end situation for Eugene's kind of interesting. Then you go over to the real competitive team, the 1603ers, which, of course, I had the foresight to call this upset. I saw this coming a mile away. I don't want to brag, but yeah, this is a 40-point blowout. I mean, the 1603ers stacked from top to bottom. And Connor's been like you had a boom week 1. He had like 34 points, but since then he's kind of been flat. You got to say, but it doesn't matter. What else coming back?
Also, we have Ingram coming back.
Oh yeah, you are just stacked up with people piled high to the ceiling to throw in there. The wide receivers, you've really done an excellent. Like Ridley, that guy's hot. He's red hot right now.
Yeah.
You could probably get Kamara for Ridley straight up. I mean, if you wanted to be bold. I mean, this guy is on fire. He's making Julio Jones look silly. All right, and then Boyd's really coming on for the Bungles, and Melvin Gordon has just been your ace. That guy's money.
Yeah.
Melvin Gordon. No, he's like Gurley. He's the AFC's Todd Gurley at this point. And Rudolph, I mean, it's hard to get a tight end in this league, as Eugene can see, and a lot of teams can see, even my team. tight end market is barren wasteland. There's nobody.
Yeah, it really is. But I mean,
You
Rudolph.
got the most.
What's it?
Oh no, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say Rudolph has been fine. He's been getting about, he's been getting double digits every week, but not much more than that. Like low double digits.
Got the most out of him just before his injury, so I don't know how long he's going to be out. But it doesn't matter. I mean, you can just go to Crabtree. You still have Chris Hogan. Like, Chris Hogan's saga continues, right?
Yeah, I think he's on a very short... Like, if I need the spot, he will be the one that's gone. He's just there because why not? Go ahead.
Kicker defense is fine. You can ride Jacksonville all season. 1603ers are definitely one of the teams to beat. A solid 166-point performance, right up there with Nicky Baby, who had another boom week. I mean, this is a team to be reckoned with. And 3-1 Eugene. Is this the mark of a slide? I don't know. We'll see. Keep an eye on the greatest team in the league, quote unquote.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's not that much. Look, Michael Thomas had a bad week, which he's not going to do often. Yeah, I mean, he's just hurting himself at wide receiver right now. I mean, that was kind of the problem that we had earlier in the season, but now not as much. So, I don't know. He sold his wide receivers for a big name, and whether or not Elliott will sustain this, that's yet to be seen, because he hasn't had that before this. He had 17, 19, 14, and now 34, but going against Detroit. I mean, he's got Houston and Jacksonville coming up, so I don't know. I think this was the game to get him for, but now he's really hurting at wide receiver, so I don't know.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, speaking about Nicky Baby, I guess we could take a look at that game. Highest score in the league this week, 175.52 to 128.90. The Blues continue on a slide. Nicky Baby, like you said, this was one of the boom weeks, not one of the bust weeks. So only 18 from Rodgers. He's been kind of disappointing, especially against a Buffalo team. Sterling Shepard has been coming on. What's been going on there? I don't... like I said, I didn't watch any of these games, but the week before he got 20 points. This week he's gotten 25.7. What am I missing? What's going on there in New York?
I guess there's so much attention on Odell. He's just the guy in the red zone.
Okay. I mean, he had 1 touchdown and 1 2-point conversion to add to that, but still 10 targets, 10 receptions, 77 yards. Yeah, I don't know. That's something that I was not expecting. Keenan Allen, now newly traded to Nick, 13.30 points, 25 from Gurley, his solid player. And then Javarius Allen, the player that he got in the trade that he shouldn't have, only got 6.7. Cook, who had another one of those like week 1 games, 31 points from him. 37.20 from Cooper Kupp on the Thursday night. I think Lombardi posted something on Facebook on Thursday night saying, well, looks like this week's over if Cooper Kupp is getting 37 points. 13 from the kicker and 5 from the Tennessee defense. For the Blues, I mean, look, he actually outscored Eugene this week by 2 points. But he's been on somewhat of a slide. I mean, look, these are two people in the same office who came against teams that just brought huge games, so you can't really fault them for that. And we've always said that you want to be in that 120 to 130 range, more if you can. And they hit those marks, but I don't know. So 28 points, 28.7 for Rivers, 23.30 for Diggs. 17.8 from AJ Green, who did end up coming back. Finally, David Johnson actually does a decent performance with 18.20 points, 15.6 for Lewis. Disley didn't do Disley poo squat. He's now on IR, and it looks like he just is gone. 4.8 from Goodwin. I kept saying Goodwin before it was Godwin before. This one's Goodwin. Only got 4.8 points. 9 from Gould and 10 from the New England defense. Wow, Derek Carr had 41.58 points on this bench. And this Davis guy in Tennessee, look at that. 31.10 points on this bench. What happened there? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, let's take a look at this right now. So, let Lombardi post 128. I mean, that's pretty average in fantasy football. That's not too bad. But you're going up against a 175-point juggernaut. Okay? When Cooper Kupp is getting 37 on the Thursday night game, Lombardi's right. You're finished. Yeah. Okay? Lombardi's in the tight end toilet bowl with the rest of us. Disley didn't do Disley poo squat. That's terrible. Lombardi's the victim of Audwin did with Vance McDonald. Okay, Disley had one play where he scored, and Lombardi's just I gotta have it. All right, Ebron with 15 on the bench obviously is first of all, this is one of those games where I think Lombardi could have played basically his whole bench also and wouldn't have equaled Nick's score. I don't think. Well, he might have. He probably would have gotten a lot closer. Yeah, he probably would have beat him. But still, I mean, look at these points. Davis on the bench for Tennessee. Would you have made that move? No. I wouldn't have. No. That's coming. No. So it's like the Robert Woods deal where I just left him on the bench for 33 points against Eugene. You can't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, I would have played Ebron for 15, but that's still not going to get him the win there.
No, but so Rivers is their solid fantasy quarterback. I mean, he's Phillip Rivers. He's always going to be there. Diggs is actually having a very solid year. Minnesota, between Thielen and Diggs, I think Millennium has Thielen. This is a good receiver combo to have this year. They can move the ball, throwing the ball. Yeah. AJ Green is he's been a little bit banged up, but he still puts up quality numbers every single week. Lombardi had to be sweating bullets with David Johnson. I mean, prior to this, he was a bust. Oh, yeah. I mean, what do we look? 16 points last week is respectable, but that was because of a receiving touchdown. But 6 and then 7. I mean, he's not the juggernaut that he was in 2016. But, his value is still there.
Well, he has Ezekiel Elliott numbers prior to this week. I mean, basically, they've been about the same. It's just Elliott finally played Detroit. So, I mean...
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, next week he's got at San Francisco and then at Minnesota. All right, David Johnson's going to be around for a while. Lewis is pretty solid. He's your classic RB2. Goodwin, what does Lombardi have for flex options here? I was probably going to shove in Davis after the 31 points. I mean, I would. Chris Thompson does come back from the Redskins. He's usually good, so he was on a bye. So, give Lombardi that. He had 24 and then 22. So he could definitely crank up some numbers from Matt. And, Matt's right in there with the rest of them competitive-wise. He just had – some of his players just had off weeks. I mean, there's nothing you can do. Nicky Baby just plastered them this week. It was 175. What are you going to do with that? Yeah.
I mean, and this is the kind of game that Nick had week 1 and then kind of disappeared. I mean, first of all, I don't think the trade had anything to do with any of this. I mean, look, he would have – if he didn't make the trade – he would have been playing Ezekiel Elliott, who would have gotten 30 points instead of Allen's 6. Actually, Nick would have scored more had he not made the trade.
Yeah, he had over 200 points.
Yeah. I mean, well, the 13 from Keenan Allen and plus the 6, that would have been 20 points, right? I think almost 20 points exactly, either that or 19. And then, no, that would have been 20. So 20 points deducted from this, and then to add 30, he would have gotten 185.
Look at his bench. I mean, Kittle had 24. Yeah, Cook actually had 31. I mean, Nick made all the right moves. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, 175 points. I mean, the question is this the regular Nicky Baby team? What Nicky team's going to come out there?
No, I know. Well, first of all, I mean, Cook... this week, 31 points. What did he get the first week? He got 27, and then sandwiched in between 8.9 and 8.1. That's a huge difference right there. Cooper Kupp, I mean, he's actually been pretty good this season, but, 17, 12, 16, 37. I don't even think Nick needed to make that trade. Look, with Sterling Shepard apparently coming on, he could have had him and Cooper Kupp, Gurley and Elliott. I mean, Rodgers is surprisingly one of his weakest parts. I don't think Nick needed to do that. I mean, he could plug in Kittle even at the flex. He got Jordy Nelson, who got 17 points on the bench. I don't know. This is a boomer bust team. I question whether or not this is going to happen again next week, I mean, because the places that these numbers are coming from, are they really going to continue to come from there? I mean, is Cooper Kupp going to have like 40-point games all the time? Is Cook? I mean, you take that away, and this is an average score. I mean, and then Shepard, who you don't necessarily count on for all this. I mean, if Rodgers only scoring 18 points, I mean, Gurley's going to get you the points no matter what. That's a consistent, 25 to God knows what. But all the rest of this, I don't know. Do you count on that week in and week out?
Well, let's just say this: he puts up 175, he's undefeated. Anything less, he's 0-2.
Yeah. Yeah, he's 2-0. Plus 170. If he gets under 170, he's vulnerable.
All right. He's playing the millennials. He's projected to get 130 this upcoming week. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, this week he was only projected to get 129, so it's not like, I don't know how much faith they have in these projections.
The defense gets you 5 points, and your RB2 gets you 6 points, right? That's 2.
Yeah.
7 players get you 175 points. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Usually every player's got to get 20 plus to put up numbers like that. I don't know how Nick did this. I mean, this is the magic act he's doing. Hopefully he's not a playoff spoiler. Just trying to make it to the playoffs and you go up against Nick.
Well,
in a 180.
Yeah, that's the thing. He could go into the playoffs, like if you have to face him in like some wild card game, he could put up 175 and then the next week be, escorted out immediately with like, a terrible game. So...
Yep.
I don't know. All right. What game do you want to go to next?
All right, let's hit the Lightning Rods Whalers game.
Yeah, this is an
As
interesting
we
game.
have our first 0-4 sighting this season. Lightning Rods has been punched around. He's just had a rough go of it.
Yeah, I mean, like the first few weeks, we really said that, he didn't necessarily deserve to lose those games that he did. This one he did. But the interesting thing also is, like, coming out, the Whalers team looked terrible. I mean, like, last week... What?
I was going to say, he was victimized by the Nicky Baby 170 mauling. So we couldn't do anything about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying the general perception was, going into last week's game against Dr. Hockey, it was a battle of the, 0-2s, who's going to be 0-3, and who's going to at least have a chance this season. I mean, we clearly saw who doesn't. But yeah, maybe Whalers was victimized early on in the season and is a much better team. Like, he's been able to kind of sneak under the radar and be much better than people have been paying attention to. Because I mean, this is an impressive score. He was impressive last week against an admittedly terrible team. But I mean, and put aside Gayton's record in this one. He's been a good team overall, and 141 is nothing to sneeze at anyway. So impressive performance. But here, do you want to go through the numbers or do you want me to do it?
Now you can do the You're numbers guy.
Yeah, I'm the numbers guy. All right, so Tom Brady with 26.96 points to Eli Manning 16.7. That's interesting that they picked up Manning for this game versus New Orleans, thinking that, it makes sense. New Orleans gives up a ton of points, but this was actually a low fantasy scoring game. I'm not sure. I mean, the score is 33-18. I don't know what happened there. I'm assuming you watched the game. What happened in that game?
A lot of Giants bungling. Kamara just took over that game.
Okay.
Eli, they just couldn't move the ball. It's typical Giants shenanigans.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, even Breeze got like a very low score this week, and so did Michael Thomas. So I just really don't know. I mean, and they won.
It there was no ground game. It was all Kamara. Kamara was just unbelievable in this game.
Okay. Well, yeah, he got 41.10 points, moving down to that. So I guess we'll skip to the running backs. Yeah, 41.10 points from Kamara, 25.60 for Bernard. So that was really a bulk of his points, as opposed to Lamar Miller, who only got 4.9 and 10.7 for Tevin Coleman, who has not been that good of fill-in for Devonta Freeman. Julio Jones with 26.30 points to Antonio Brown 17.2 and 10 for Smith-Schuster compared to 11.4. Didn't the Whalers offer you Antonio Brown for like Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins or something ridiculous?
It was, yeah. It was. I mean, value-wise, I mean, that's a little bit much. I think that's outrageous.
Well, especially Antonio Brown this season. I mean, what has he even done? Like, that Steelers team is not that great. 24, 15, 17, 17. I mean, like, you know, Houston had a bad first week, but ever since then, they're getting like 20 points in their sleep, all those guys. But yeah, I mean, obviously dominating the running back position. That's where a lot of this game was won. But, you know, he made up a little, Gayton did, in the wide receiver with Julio Jones getting 26. But otherwise, that was basically even, but like Whalers blew him away at the running back position. Eifert got 13.8 before he went down. Howard, who did not go down, or did he? He's listed as out. He got 0 points. He's out 2 to 4 weeks with a sprained MCL. Interesting. And then Robinson with 10.3 to Williams, 2.5. Then 16 for Tucker and 9 for Butker and 4 apiece for the defenses. Both Los Angeles defenses playing against each other. Yeah, I mean, like, obviously look, Whalers has a pretty good team. I mean, he still has the problem with the quarterback. The other interesting thing was he actually dropped Trubisky this week on the week that he gets 55 points. I mean, Whalers could have ended up, you had 50, let's see, subtract 16 from this, that's pretty 126, and then you add Trubisky, he would have had 55. He would have been up there like Nick-like numbers this week if he would have kept him, ironically. But, you know, and then I think he's got Mixon coming back to replace Bernard. So, I mean, there's no reason to think that Whalers can't be a good team. I mean, he's certainly got a solid base. I mean, talking about Cooks, or you were talking about Woods in, you know, before. I mean, Cooks ended up getting 24.6 points on the bench in the Thursday game. But, you know, I guess... But Smith-Schuster has been good. I don't know if you can not play that. I mean, like, that's not really the area of concern. Obviously, the tight end, but everybody seems to have tight end problems. And definitely the running back position seems to be a problem for Gayton. But, yeah, no, I mean, like, right now, look, Whalers has a good team other than that quarterback position, which he seems to almost be streaming quarterbacks. But, you know, running backs are solid. Wide receivers are good. They're good. Like, the running backs are really good for the Whalers. The wide receivers are good. And we'll see if he fixes the tight end position and then, you know, what he's going to do with flex. But, I mean, he has some options at the bench for the flex. But, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Whalers, if you look at it this way, I think he was 0-2 with Joe Mixon out 2 to 4 weeks and LaShawn McCoy injured. And, you know, he was always rolling with Kamara. But he's really, like you said, under the radar, sneaky moves. You paid $75 for Bernard. I put a high bid in there too, but that was impressive. I think that's kind of turned this team around, combined with Kamara. That Bernard Kamara punch. We'll see what happens when Mixon comes back. Eifert, of course, now he's in the tight end shit can with everybody else, with Eifert out basically for the year, I'm sure. And then O.J. Howard. There's a lot of teams struggling at tight end. If you have a good tight end this year, you are in really good shape because it's horrid at tight end right now. Antonio Brown, Galladay's been pretty consistent. I mean, he's no barn burner, but he gets you double digits.
I mean, everybody on that Detroit wide receiving core just gets so many targets that they, you know, they're going to put up numbers for you.
Yeah, and lightning rods. I mean, let's look at this guy. I mean, like I said, in week 1, he was the victim of the Nick Zaveri mauling of 170 points. Okay. Week 2, 157 for Lombardi. I mean, week 3, 143, and then week 4, 140. I mean, he's just had a brutal schedule. I mean, you got to put up that many points just to win in any given week. That's a brutal schedule. I'm sorry. That's brutal.
I mean, he's got to have the most points against in the league.
Oh,
I mean, I haven't looked at it, but let's see. Let's take a quick gander at the points against. I mean, it's the Lightning Rod, 612.46 points against. I mean, the next closest is Dr. Hockey at 566. Although I don't think Hockey is losing because of the because of the amount of points that scored against him. But yeah, like and then the lowest point scored against is Nick and Jamie with only 443. So we're talking about they've had like almost 200 less points scored on them in the first 4 weeks than the Lightning Rod. So, I mean, that certainly says something.
Yeah, I mean, this is no make God win great again team. This is a competitive team that's just gone against stiff competition right out the gate. I mean, you just can't. Every week it's just the guys are bringing it. So he's got to catch a break. Hopefully not this week. He doesn't catch a break this week against me. But next week maybe hopefully he'll catch a break. Tom Brady's a solid guy. I mean, Julio still got 26, and Ridley's been coming on strong. I mean, who would have thought that Julio Jones would be like the second best receiver in Atlanta right now? I don't know what's going on over there. Schuster, whatever. I mean, this is where he gets killed. The running back tandem, like Tevin Coleman is no Devontae Freeman. Let's just say that right out the gate. I mean, he's been out for a couple weeks now, and he's just been getting whatever out of the dumpster numbers. I think Jean-Luc Richard, Captain Picard, out of the dumpster for me got 6 points. I mean, Coleman is the starter on the Falcons, and he's getting 10 points. So and Lamar Miller has been historically horrendous. I don't even know why he's in there. Let's take a look at some possible explanations. Is somebody out or on a bye? I don't think so. It's just no. I mean, it's just carry on Johnson, carry on luggage. Got 12 points. I think he's in there this week against me. You got to get Lamar Miller out of here. He's horrendous. So, I mean, Lightning Rods would have benefited. I think he's still got $207 in free agency, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He would have benefited from the Giovanni Bernard sweepstakes. I mean, this is what I don't understand. Teams hold on to their free agent money, and their record goes to 0-4. You got to start spending.
Yeah.
I mean, the bank account, the bankroll looks good. You got the Scarroll, but you're 0-4. I mean, so what do you want to do? Howard with the injury is out. What are you going to do about that? And, Robinson, I mean, that Chicago offense really put up ridiculous numbers this week. I mean, it just seems like that's how the NFL is this week. Quarterbacks are throwing for thousands of yards a game. And the next game, they throw for like 25 yards. So you just it's boom or bust. Tucker's solid as the kicker, and the Rams deep. I mean, Lightning Rods is a competitive team. He's just been snake bit.
Yeah. Although this week, this was his worst performance of so far, and this is Whalers' best performance so far. I mean, that part has happened to the Lightning Rods consistently, where everybody's best performance it seems is against the Lightning Rods. But this is certainly like the worst out of the four. Like the other ones he really could have pulled out, but this one he would have had to play a bad team in order to get this one.
I mean, his season high is 146, right? And then the following week he got 130. He can put up points. He's not a bad scoring team. He's just running into teams that are having really good weeks. He's a snake bit.
Yep. So anything else on either of these teams?
No, I got to tip my hat to the Whalers, though. I thought his team was left for dead.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, he lost to Black Ice Dynasty the first week. I mean, and that was the game that Tyreek Hill had like that 40-point game. But yeah, no, I thought he was left for dead too. And then he's built himself very quietly a pretty good team and totally under the radar.
Right, and not even making any Shafto trades.
No. So where do we want to move to next?
Let's go to Nick and Jamie.
All right, Nick and Jamie, the first place Nick and Jamie.
Off the radar. These guys, 4-0. Don't even mention them this season.
Yeah, they have been off the. I mean, like, yeah, I just think they're not that it's like what was that Duncan or whatever in San Antonio, where they're just not. Nobody's even paying attention. I don't even know what they've been doing. I mean, we've been saying week after week, like, how are they winning these games? I mean, look, they won the first week against Tillett Trey team by 1 point by the Amari Cooper catch, not even a point. And that was when, none of their players were, where a lot of people were suspended, or they were going to, they had built a team basically to be good, peaking right around now when everybody started to come back. And and they managed to get those 3 wins. It looked like they were going to hold on for dear life for the first three weeks, try to, get a win or two, and then really build their team post that. They got those 3 wins to begin with, and now they're super strong now that they have their other players. Although we can get a little bit into whether or not, like the Edelman thing will work out as well, or what, but nonetheless, they've been good all season, somewhat under the radar. Although I've been keeping a close tab on them, but they've been making smart moves.
First of all, let me just put this in perspective. So, Nick, you already just talked about the Lightning Rods going into a brutal schedule, right? This is the difference between 4-0 and 0-4, and it's perfectly illustrated in these two teams. Now, both of them, look at Nick and Jamie. So they had 120 in week 1. They won by less than a point. Week 2, they put up a whooping 131, right? Week 3, they put up 112, not exactly a barn burner. So they finally put up 166, but that's the difference. Their opponents put up 78 Lombardi, 123 baby, very human, down to earth, and 119 Tiltrey versus the Lightning Rods, where everybody, brings it every single week, and you're 0-4, and then you get teams that put up 78, and you're 4-0.
I mean,
so that's happening.
The interesting, I wonder actually if Nick and Jamie had Gayton's schedule and Gayton had Nick and Jamie's schedule, if this would be the exact reverse. I mean, because what?
It very well could be. It would be, because Lightning Rods put up 146, and then one that they would have beaten. Yeah, they would have beaten the first two. Well, it depends, but yeah. I mean, you're playing the Blues with 78. Yeah, they would be 4-0 right now.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is, I mean, they're like mirror opposites here, frankly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, Nick and Jamie, I wouldn't say they squeaked by, because like you said, $1.62. That's pretty solid.
No. Look, now is when their team, when all those players are coming through. I'm just saying the first 3 weeks was really a period where, they caught some. They caught a nice schedule to start out with, let's just say. But I mean, they're also very quietly making moves. I mean, look, on their bench, TJ Yeldon, who Dr. Hockey, the madman, picked up for $121 and then immediately dropped. And then, I think he went to Miner's team against me. Then he quietly dropped him, and now they went to go pick him up. But that was before the game. And then now Fournette's out again, and they get him back. I mean, they've been making some very smart moves very quietly. It's not happening in the auction or or it's just happening. They're paying attention, and they're doing some very smart things over there, and it shows. In the record, but yeah, I mean, they could be in a very different position had they not had that schedule to start out with.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but let's look at this game. So Wentz, 24.72 points as opposed to Russell Wilson's 8.98. 33 from Tate. Once again, this comes down to the Detroit receivers getting tons of points and targets, which is what I said. 14 for Odell Beckham. I mean, his score was more than doubled by Golden Tate. 15 for T.Y. Hilton, 27 for Thalion, who you mentioned before. Like, that Minnesota wide receiving core is just amazing. Kareem Hunt finally shows up with 26.50 points and 31.20 from James White. What happened in that game? My gosh, I don't even know. And this didn't Eugene last week say something about I wouldn't be playing James White, I'd be playing Michael. Well, if you would have played Michael, you would have gotten about half the points there. So yeah. Gronk, very disappointing. Gronk numbers 8.40 points, 11.1 from Graham, was actually the better tight end this week in his 2 tight end set. 8 for the kicker and 4 for the defense. I mean, look at all these single digits, and yet he still gets over 160. That's pretty impressive. So for the Millennials, Fitzmagic, whatever, I'm still going to call them the Millennials, especially now that the Fitzmagic thing is totally ridiculous now that he's been benched, but whatever. And he's not on his team, never was. Anyway, yeah, so we said Wilson, Beckham, Thalian. But then the running back core, he had to go with Howard and Jay Ajayi. Howard with only 2.5 points and 11.1 for Ajayi. Kelsey, maybe one of the only good tight ends in the game. I mean, and you'd think this is a big tight end battle. I mean, first of all, Nick and Jamie have 2 of them. Didn't, or maybe equaled the one, Kelsey, who seems to be far above anybody else. Aguilar with only 7.2, and then 16 from the kicker and 14 for the defense, which really is what I wouldn't say kept him in this game. But, I mean, you take away those kicking and defensive numbers, I mean, this is a pretty poor performance by the Millennials, who's been playing well lately. And then the ironic thing, interestingly enough, is Howard got 2.5. We've been saying, what is he doing with this Tariq Cohen Howard? Like last week, and it looked like he was to start both of them. But this week, actually, Cohen gets 30.40 points. So interesting. I don't know.
All right, so solid performance by Nick and Jamie. So Carson Wentz coming back is finally getting his feet under him. But like you said, anybody in Detroit right now is putting up ridiculous numbers. They're a numbers machine, okay? Forget about it. Hilton, I think that was a good move. Luck is having a pretty good year. Fantasy-wise, anybody who owns, like, Colt offensive players, you might be surprised pleasantly.
Although he's out now. I guess he has a hamstring injury.
Yeah, he's out for the Thursday game, but
okay.
He's a good guy over. I think he's going to have a pretty solid season. Ironically, I offered Nick and Jamie DeAndre Hopkins for Rob Gronkowski all the way back in week 1 straight up. And sometimes fate works in your favor. They declined the trade, and I was like, oh, man, I missed out. But Gronk since then has been very quiet. Yeah. Teams are double covering him, and he's not doing shit. So we'll see what happens when Josh Gordon and Edelman come back, if that frees him up. But he hasn't done anything. And he's like a premier elite tight end. So Nick and Jamie are almost in the tight end shit can with everybody else, even with Gronk. That seems to be their only quote-unquote weakness because, I mean, James White, 31 points. My God, this guy. James White, everybody. That's the difference between sticking with your guy, Nick and Jamie, and millennials benching your guy, 30 points Cohen on the bench.
But I think...
So that's...
yes. I also think this is a very interesting case of James White is not a big name at running back, but he's been really good this season. I mean... okay, 15 points the first week, 15 the second week, 14 last week, and then 31 this game. I mean, you know... He's not a guy that you're like, oh, what, you know, I mean, he's James White. But he's been getting really good numbers. And then, you know, you have the Lombardi mentality of, you know, David Johnson. He's like, he's a name. He's so great. But he's been underwhelming.
You know what that reminds me of? So you just mentioned the James White numbers.
Yeah.
Here's the Zeke numbers, 17, 19, 14, 34. Mm-hmm. For Zeke. Who you'd have to pay out the nose to get, right? And then what did you just mention for White?
Yeah.
He's like a Ezekiel Elliott performer.
Yeah.
They have a Elliott, literally. If you compare the numbers side by side.
Yeah.
That's ironic.
But then when, you know, if you went to Lombardi and I'm like, I'll offer you James White for David Johnson, there's no way we would take it because of the name. But you look at the performance this year, or if anybody offered, you know, James White for Ezekiel Elliott, I don't think people would take it because of the name. But, you know, the performance is there. And I think even just historically, I think that's been one of the things that has made Nick and Jamie such a good team throughout the years is that they are not beholden to names. They will put, you know, players in there that get points that people aren't even necessarily thinking about.
Mm-mm. I mean, if you look forward to their lineup next week, I mean, they've got Edelman coming back. They've got, I mean, this team is poised to put up some points. This is next week's battle against the Whalers is one of the top matchups of the week. I'm going to be looking forward to.
Yeah. So, but any other thoughts on this game?
No, I mean, hats off again to Nick and Jamie. They are just they've made all the right moves, and they're 4-0, well deserved, well played.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to Black Ice Dynasty versus Tilla-Trey team. This was an upset. This was definitely the upset of the week. I thought Tilla-Trey was going to take this, but that did not happen. I mean, the original projection was 129 to 114 in favor of Tilla-Trey, but it went the other way. Black Ice Dynasty gets 132.60 to Tilla-Trey's 113.06, led behind the 49.30 points for Goff. Versus only 17.86 for Roethlisberger, 14 for Hill, 14.6 for Hill, 11.9 for Evans, 13.4 for Landry, only 8.6 for Marvin Jones, somebody who did not get fed in that ridiculous offense over there in Detroit. And then Drake and Henry are the running backs, 2.6 and 5.1 versus Saquon and Carlos Hyde, 22.14.20, 21.2 points for Ertz, 10 for Njoku, 6.4 for Demaryius Thomas, and 10.30 for Lockett. He finally had to take out Burkhead now that he's actually injured and put in Lockett. But and then 14 points for Bryant and 4 for the defense, 12 for Houston, and 8 for the kicker in Los Angeles. The interesting thing about this is, this is the same pretty bad team on LeVar that LeVar has been having. It's just when he wins, he has that one guy who just does something ridiculous. The first week it was Tyreek Hill, and this week it's Goff going for nearly 50. But other than that, and then, okay, Ertz is the other good guy, but other than that, these are very pedestrian numbers. But you take away the 49, this is like a sub 100 game. Don't get me wrong, Tilla did not have that great a game this week either. But, Minor, he was led by Goff this entire week, the way I look at it. But what are your thoughts?
Well, LeVar Minor, again, he benefited from the Thursday, ridiculous shootout game. Ertz he's got one of the few tight ends that has actually produced consistently. Ertz is solid.
Yeah.
That's
the other one.
Yeah, Barkley for Tilla-Trey is putting up decent numbers, but Tilla-Trey, if you look at his bench again, he's having a Mike Evans type season that we had in 2015 with Amari Cooper. This is by 1 point, right? So you sit his ass because you're tired of it. You're pissed, and then he puts up 26, so he definitely could have used that, right? And look at his thing. It's Mike Evans all over again. 2 points, you sit him. When you sit him, he gets 21, right? And then he gets 3. He might have played him or he might have sat him. And then he gets 26. You don't know what to do with this guy.
Yeah.
What a headache. What an absolute headache for He could easily be 4-0, as a matter of fact.
In fact, I think that was the thing that drove you out of that was one of the things that drove you out for the season.
I'll admit it. I flat out quit. I went insane and I quit. I took a year off. Mike Evans, that kind of shit. I had Amir Abdullah, Mike Evans, Calvin. It was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. But this Kimmel kind of goes. He could easily be 4-0 if his players would just play.
I know. Well, you used to joke about the Mike Evans memorial seat on your bench. You were just gonna hold.
Oh yeah, we spot open for him at all times.
Yeah.
But going back to this game, LeVar. He's. Like you said, he would have sub 100 if it wasn't for Jared Goff. But again, the guy's 2-2. He made some moves. You look at Demaryius Thomas. Okay, 1 week he had 5 catches for 18 yards. My cat could have done that. All right, and then 4 catches for 24 yards. That's abysmal. That's abysmal. But you know what? You still win during the week. And Case Keenum. The Broncos' offense right now looks terrible. So, can LeVar keep up the winning streak? to make a playoff run. We'll see. But
I mean,
he's got enough points right now.
I look at LeVar's team like a budget version of Nick's team. I mean, he's having the same kind of thing that Nick is, where, if he has the one player that goes off, he'll win, but if he doesn't get that, he's going to lose and have an abysmal performance. It's just that when Nick does it, he, really does it at, 1/7, flashes that you see it. LeVar will put up big numbers at, 140. I mean, but that's big numbers because of one guy, because, his running back core is dog shit. I'm sorry. Drake and Henry, that's what you're rolling with?
I mean, he's in the same boat as Gaten Casimir, actually, with his kind of running back. The irony is, I believe LeVar Minor made a post this week about teams getting up early and spending ridiculous amounts of money in free agency. But again, similar to Gaten Casimir, let's look at the free agency money available to them. A full 200, and Gaten Casimir has a full 207. So they would have benefited greatly from Whaler. Whaler spent 75 for Giovanni Bernard, right? And he went from 0-2 to 2-2.
Yeah.
So again, you want to spend some of that money that you got piled up there, you can grab up people too.
Yeah, and the other thing is, it's not like he got outbid. Minor didn't spend any money. He, I could see one thing complaining I spent, I bid this, but then I got outbid by a ridiculous amount, which there have been some ridiculous bids, like the 75 for Bernard or the 121 for Yeldon. But I mean, he's not even attempting it. So there's nothing to complain about there. And then the second part about, some of that had to do with some confusion about not understanding when things are processed, because I don't even think he takes part in the free agency auction thing, because most of that's just when it gets processed. It's not like people are up at that time entering in all of their moves. It's just that just happens to be when it gets processed if you do a $0 bid. And then yes, he was the earliest one up today. So he was actually complaining about himself, kind of.
It's a trend of our one viewer complaining about length of podcast. This is the trend this season. We have to address anything that comes up on any of the media so that we get our due diligence. Yes. So,
all right.
So in other words, yeah, exactly.
And then we move on to the last game of the week, the one that I called the lock of the week. I didn't think it would be this much of a lock, but dear God, it's the Toyota blowout of the week. So Dr. Hockey going into this game 0-3, desperately needs a win, needs to do everything that he can to get a win, and he puts up a monster 63. Oh my God, so ridiculous. Basically a bye week for the Hackettstown Hagglers, who beat them 145.60 to 63.88. The initial projection was 118 to 116, but ended up being nowhere near there. I don't even know where to start on this dumpster fire of a team. Make Aldwin great again. This was your game. I'm going to let you talk about it. You could talk about your team. You could talk about... we'll definitely both talk about his, but we could talk about this game right now.
Well, first of all, I feel for Dr. Hockey in the Leonard Fournette situation because I'm in the same boat with Dalvin Cook. I mean, there's just injury plagues. You don't know if they're going to play. I threw him literally at the last second before the game started. He ends up with a whooping 2 points. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, is the guy going to play or not? I just want to know. You have to wait until game time. You take the risk. Hockey did the same thing with Fournette, and actually Fournette is out, I think, the next coming week.
Yeah, but this is why he should have held on to Yeldon, who he spent $121 on.
True. I will give him that. Yeah, it was a little hasty dropping Yeldon like that. But he is a madman. We have to give him that.
Yes.
Last week, his player Lindsey was ejected for fist fighting. Interesting. He got 2 points. This week, he gets 15 points. And he's lucky he got those 15 points. Otherwise, he's looking at a sub-50-point mockery. And we're really turning up the whooping laughter on him. But 63 points, and when you're 0-3, I mean, you got to get aggressive and make some moves. I mean,
he's made some moves, and he's spent some money. He's just doing it in insane ways. And then dropping the players after he spends all the money on them.
Look, we both laughed at him last week about the. We got at him, but somebody was going to pick up Vance McDonald after that game. Hockey just goes right in and takes the bait. Like, come on, guys. You had to have seen that. That was one play. He pushed the guy down and ran for 75 yards. He's not going to do anything for the rest of the season. I mean, come on. Let's be honest. He's the backup fucking tight end.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, it was 9.20 points for Vance McDonald. Was one of his better scores on that team. Third highest score on the team. In fact, higher than the quarterback. But, yeah.
I mean, Ted Ginn Jr. is like a $2 hooker passed around to every team. You've had him. Garbage. 0.10. I think if you look at fantasy-wise, isn't that the lowest you could possibly get? You can't get it besides 0, right? Obviously, and negatives. If you did anything, one rushing yard out of your wide receiver, that's the lowest you could. I mean, that typifies hockey season. His flex got one rushing yard. On a catch or a fumble, one rushing yard. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Obviously, Breeze didn't bring it. If it wasn't for Devontae Adams, oh my God, I don't even know what the score would look like. Cole, I don't really know what you do in Jacksonville because it's Blake Bortles. I would say that Cole hasn't really panned out. Whereas other teams, you look at their wide receivers and their running backs and you focus on that area. Hockey's the first one where you have to focus on his team as a problem area, from top to bottom. Not like the Hagglers did anything really remarkable this season. I mean, Jean-Luc Richard from Star Trek got 6.6 points. We were desperate at running back. Peterson is out with a bye, and Cook was a nightmare. So to get those kind of production out of the running back, 8 points, and still come out with a victory, we're lucky we played Auburn this week. And Emmanuel Sanders, quiet, Parkey, what a kicker who gives a rat's ass. I actually had the Houston defense and dropped him. LeVar picked him up. But, this DeAndre Hopkins-Watson thing, in the beginning, nobody wanted anything to do with them. I mean, they were offering me Watson and Hopkins for, like, the kicker. Now they're starting to come on. So I guess I'm going to hold on to this duo.
Yeah, I mean, Watson and Hopkins alone would have beaten all of Audubon's team.
That is true.
You could have played those two players, and they would have beaten the entire rest of his team.
And sat the rest of the team. You're right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that just sums it up. I mean, if you're going to fix hockey's team, and this is the question of the week, where would you start? Go ahead, I'll back in. Dumpster fire. Where do you start putting out the dumpster fire? I don't think the answer's on the bench right now.
No. I mean, look, you keep Adams. Obviously, you keep Breeze, even though he had a bad game this week. Okay. And then you just, I mean, I guess you could keep Lindsey and Freeman. I mean, everybody's just terrible in this. I mean, you could get rid of everybody else. I mean, Ginn, you could absolutely drop. Rosas, his kicker, has been one of his better players. I mean, Fournette should be on IR with Yeldon in the game to help him. Cole has got to go. Get rid of Cole. What are you doing, man? I mean, yeah, and then just flush. That's my advice to hockey. Just flush.
Do you keep Larry Fitzgerald, or is he proven that he's not going to do anything this year?
I mean, you can't even trade him, so no, I would. I mean, I actually once did that where I dropped Larry Fitzgerald. I had him a couple of years ago in the minor, ended up picking up, and he ended up doing really well. I mean, look, it's not like he doesn't have room on his bench if he wanted to drop some of these guys, because they're all horrid. So, if he does that, then he can, if he dropped the guys on his bench and his lineup, in his back pocket, he could keep him there to see if he's going to improve. I might keep him, sitting around, but, I mean, there's, so much else to flush, my God. It's so bad. It's such a bad team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really. It doesn't even matter if Fournette plays at this point. I mean, it's just
the savior.
It's bad.
Yeah. As far as the Hagglers go, like that. Like I said, the Watson Hopkins combo meal has certainly been coming through for you. Robert Woods, who you didn't play the week before, you played this week, paid off. I think he's really coming on. Your running back situation is bad, but you did have what do you call it? Peterson on a bye, and Dalvin Cook was on the the snap count, or the what is it? What are we, the bitch count? The pitch count?
Bitch.
Yeah. So I mean, if this was, I would be concerned for your running back situation if you needed this to go forward. But I mean, look, you're going to get Peterson back, and then Dalvin Cook will actually be playing full games again, and so you should be okay there. Burton is, ever since that first week, the nightmare before the season, he's actually been okay lately. So okay with that. Emmanuel Sanders has been one of the few bright spots on Denver. I mean, this wasn't a scintillating game; he didn't need it, but he's been fine. Still getting double digits. So overall, I think the Hagglers are pretty good. They needed this win. They couldn't have afforded. I mean, you could not afford to lose this game. I know that you were, before it happened, you were sweating it out, like, oh, I can't, I can't afford to lose this, and you couldn't. But there were, you didn't. I mean, there was no.
No.
And yeah, I just don't even know what to do with hockey. All right, so that does it for that for last week's games. Are we ready to move on to next week's?
Let's rock and roll. Let's do it.
All right. So, what game do we want to start on for next week?
Well, let's do back-to-back Hagglers to get it out of the way. So we got Lightning Rods and Hagglers. Now, Lightning Rods and Dr. Hockey, they may have the same score, but this team can actually do something.
Yeah, so you're playing two 0-4 teams 2 weeks in a row, or two winless teams, let's say, 2 weeks in a row. But yes, I think Odwin is, a very different winless team than the Lightning Rods. So I don't care what Odwin's schedule is. There's no way he would. It would have been different. Lightning Rods could have been.
And you look at it, Lightning Rods is actually favored in this game, 124-117. That just shows you how much of a difference his team is than Hockey.
Yeah. All right, so we have Watson versus Dallas going against Brady versus Indianapolis. I'm definitely going to give the edge to Watson there. Hopkins as well going against Julio Jones at Pittsburgh. I think this is actually going to be a good wide receiver battle. I think that Julio Jones will do well at Pittsburgh. I mean, that Pittsburgh secondary is nothing great. I think I think this will be I might actually give a little bit of the edge to Hopkins, especially with Fuller out and not much not much else in Houston. I might give a slight edge to Hopkins on that. But it should be about even. Robert Woods versus Juju Smith-Schuster. Woods at Seattle. Schuster versus Atlanta. I mean, theoretically, Woods should do better with the way he's been playing lately. Smith-Schuster quieted down last week. We'll see. I mean, the Atlanta games have been pretty high scoring, especially fantasy-wise, so maybe a slight edge in Smith-Schuster. And then you have Peterson at New Orleans. I think he'll do okay. And then Coleman at Pittsburgh. I don't think that he's going to do that well. He's playing the Johnson guy. Carry on luggage in Detroit versus Green Bay. And then you picked up Hines. Yes! For Indianapolis. And you spent a whooping $50 for him, like almost bankrupting you, because the Hagglers just cannot hold on to their cash.
No.
Right. At New England. I mean, look, there's nobody. I mean, everybody seems to be injured in Indianapolis. Not a bad pickup, especially given that situation. And given the situation on your team lately, you also spent some money on Azuma, who, interestingly enough, is the Eifert replacement, which I think is a good pickup. I mean, given that you've had Burton, but I mean, Burton's been on a bye, or is on a bye this week, so good pickup, especially for this week. And then I got news for you. I mean, like, I have no idea in this league because people don't want to trade unless it's for names or whatever else. But Azuma might be a good guy to pick up, you know, like that you might be able to work out how to trade with somebody for, if they're willing to like actually look at the value rather than the name. But I mean, Eifert has been doing pretty well. Cincinnati is doing pretty well, so I think Azuma, you know, is should be a good person to trade for if you actually want the numbers and don't need the name. Going against,
yeah, but
well,
because there's also Croft is the other tight end, so I'm not sure who Cincinnati's going to actually go to.
well, we'll see. I'm not saying make the trade right now. I'm just saying like it's a possibility down the road if he does have a good game. Maybe you do that. Otherwise, you could have a Vance McDonald, Jesse James situation. So we'll see. I don't know. Anyway, he's going against Safarian Jenkins. I'm still going to give. Look, I'm giving the running back edge to the Hagglers. I'm giving the wide receiver those less than the running back edge. The tight end, I'm still going to give to the Hagglers. Then you got Brown, who's been on fire ever since I dropped him like an idiot. Going against Cleveland versus Cooks at Seattle. I think Cooks will do well and will actually match up well against Woods. You got Suckup versus Tucker. Tucker is actually a good kicker. And then the Carolina defense versus the Rams defense. Obviously, I'm going to go with the Hagglers on this game. I think there's many more weapons there unless something, interesting happens. But, go with the Hagglers.
I always have to go with myself. But, this Lightning Rod team, I mean, so this could be a very favorable matchup for him because my team really doesn't put up the kind of numbers. Like, we're not in the 170s like Nick. So this is a team, I mean, if he finally gets a reasonable opponent, like Lightning Rods can actually do some damage in this one. So I'm going to keep my eye on this one, but I'm going to favor myself in this one. Obviously.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the next game. Who do you want to go with next?
All right, let's go right down the line to the slaughterhouse. 1603 years against Dr. Hockey. I mean, if he thought 145 was a beating, wait till you see what happens over here. For the team that got 166 last week, if I wasn't even going to bother to field the team, I mean, this is the blowout of the millennium. I mean, this is horrible. I mean, for Dr. Hockey to get this is back-to-back whoopings coming up.
I mean, he's not even projected to get 100, by the way. Although he still has Fournette in the lineup. Okay, so you have Matt Ryan at Pittsburgh versus Drew Brees versus Washington. I think, I think I'm going to favor Ryan there. Ridley versus Adams. This is the one of the few matchups that actually is a matchup, but I'll even give it to Adams. Why not? Adams going at Detroit. Especially given that. Boyd versus Miami versus Cole at Kansas City. You give Boyd, I think, the advantage there. And then Melvin Gordon versus Oakland versus Lindsey at the Jets. You got to go with Gordon at the advantage there. Connor versus Atlanta versus an injured Fournette. I'm going to give the advantage to the man that's playing. I don't know if he's going to put anybody in there, so I can't really make a judgment there. Rudolph at Philadelphia versus McDonald versus Atlanta. I got to go with Rudolph there, even though, like I said, he's been getting about, low double-digit numbers. I don't think Vance McDonald is the whatever. And then right now you have Ingram versus Washington, the running back coming back off the injury versus Teddy Ginn, the wide receiver who ran for 1 yard last week. I'm going to give the edge to Ingram. Then you have Crosby at Detroit, Rosas at Carolina, and the Jacksonville defense at Kansas City. Actually, so that might be a problem for the Jacksonville defense because those games have been pretty big scoring. So I don't know if the defense is going to be that great this week versus Dallas at Houston. So I never pick myself. And I will say this about the 1603ers, just historically, we have lost in trap games from, time in memoriam. I don't know what it is, but these are the if you look at us historically, even into the championship, we lose games. There is no reason why we should lose. And that's the only reason why I'm going to pick Dr. Hockey to win this game. But
yeah, I don't even know if I can buy this one.
No, first of all, I never pick myself. And second of all, that's the only reason why I'm going to pick Hockey. But, all logic says to do the other. I just can't do it. I'm not going to set myself up to jinx myself. I never pick myself. But go ahead.
Dr. Hockey is abysmal. I don't know if I could buy this. Oh, I just want to do my due diligence. Bill Belichick speech. No, get out of here. This is a massacre. Not just on paper. This is going to be a bloodbath. I'm not even buying the, he's a good team. We respect our opponent. This is a mismatch.
Maybe.
Is Dr. Hockey allowed to play his bench also against your team? Because he's going to need it.
Even then, I don't know. But whatever.
No.
Yeah.
No, this is Dave Harback, and this screams lock of the week. All right, this one's over. This isn't even a matchup. You should take on who you're playing next week and add to all the score. If you want a true match.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, actually, if you would have, no, he changed. But there was at one point like where it looked like I think he had 2 players left, and you could have combined Gayton and Odwin's score, and you still would have beaten them. I think I still would have beaten their combined score last week, but whatever. Yeah, I got nothing else on this game.
All
right. Where do you want to move to next?
So right down the list, we got LeVar, Eugene. Now, this is a rebound game for Eugene here against LeVar. He's got Elliott and McCaffrey. I mean, he's strong at running back now, thanks to Nick and Odwin this season, ironically. as this guy has feasted on other teams' mistakes. Slowly built his team here.
It looks like he picked up Sanu.
What happened to the greatest player in the galaxy? He's benched for Kirk Cousins. What happened there?
I don't know.
I thought self-proclaimed greatest player in the galaxy benched for. That jumps out at me right away, right there.
I mean, I guess the Jacksonville defense, but still, if he's the greatest of all time, he should be able to overcome something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Well, you got Goff, who just had like almost a 50 burger going against Cousins at Philadelphia. I don't know who you give the advantage to there.
Goff against Seattle. I mean, you've got to give the advantage to the Rams' offense right now. They're just on fire.
Yeah. I mean, but Cousins has been pretty damn good too. This is actually a good quarterback matchup.
It is. It's pretty good. I still give the edge to the Rams. They just have it.
All right, Hill versus Jacksonville versus Michael Thomas versus Washington.
Interesting. Hill's all right. Jacksonville's a tough matchup. I give a slight edge to Thomas only because he's like one of the leading receivers. He is the leading receiver in the NFL, I believe. So
and he's coming off a weak performance last week. He probably wants to bounce back.
Is this number right? He's been targeted 44 times. He has 42 catches. He only dropped 3 passes. That's insane. I don't think that's even possible.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. Unless they're all behind the line of scrimmage, like dink and dunk. But yeah, I mean, you got to give the edge to Thomas in that one.
Landry versus Sanu, the newly acquired Sanu at Pittsburgh. And Landry versus Baltimore.
For a super team, he has a lot of people turnstiling through his team. And a lot of like Mohamed Sanu. I hope this isn't Vance McDonald syndrome. I mean, yeah, he did have a great game, and now he's just throwing him in. I mean, Sammy Watkins is potentially not going to play, and then Godwin's on a bye. He really doesn't have.
Well, I mean, we talked about him. He didn't really have.
This is where you keep.
Sorry, what was that?
So this is where you keep an eye on the Keenan Allen trade away.
Yeah. Although, I mean, look, I think Sanu is a good pickup considering the situation and about, how we talked about how we needed another wide receiver. And given the other circumstances that are going on with his team, I think this is a good pickup, especially in free agency for him, who I don't think he spent any money on him. I support the move. I don't think this is McDonald syndrome. Look, this is 2 weeks in a row that he's played well. I think he'll be okay. Like it's an okay pickup. I mean, it's a good pickup considering the circumstances. And then I mean, this running back matchup: McCaffrey and Elliott versus Drake and Henry. I mean, come on, like it's laughable. Ertz versus Ricky Seals-Jones obviously give the edge to Ertz, even though he's playing Minnesota. And then the flex, Marshawn Lynch versus Alshon Jeffrey. Lynch playing the Chargers and Jeffrey playing Minnesota. I'm going to actually give the edge, I think, to Lynch there. And then Elliott and Prater and Tennessee versus Denver. Or Tennessee and Denver.
Yeah. All right. So in this matchup right here, I was gonna say Eugene's not gonna like my prediction because I think LeVar can come back. This one's a little more evenly matched. Ertz, definitely the edge goes to Miner there with Ertz versus Ricky Seals-Jones. The problem for LeVar is definitely the RB situation. It's pretty hard to pick him with that abysmal duo. Drake and Henry, worse. I mean, that's clearly now his strength until he shafts somebody for wide receiver depth. And the wide receivers are pretty solid. I mean, Thomas is always solid. I mean, Sanu wasn't a bad pickup. I'm going to give this one to Eugene.
Yeah, this only because I never pick myself. This might even be my lock of the week, but we'll see. But yeah, no, Eugene. LeVar might be able to win, given his. He's one where he's had like one player go off ridiculously. But here's the thing. I think Eugene has the players that can kind of keep up with that. I mean, look, if Goff gets 50, I think Cousins can get 40 maybe. I don't think that one or two players is going to be enough to overcome Eugene's team, who I think, and then you just take that, you take the X factor that sometimes wins Miner's games every once in a while, and then you add the fact that, he's just going to blow him away at running back anyway. I mean, I think that, Eugene is clearly favored to win this game.
I agree with that, yep.
All right. Moving on down the line. Let's do some Nicky Baby versus Fitzmagic and/or the Millennials. This is a good game. So you got Aaron Rodgers at Detroit versus Russell Wilson versus the Rams. I got to give the edge to Rodgers there only because, of the matchups. But, also Wilson is not that good. And then Keenan Allen versus Odell Beckham. Allen playing versus Oakland. Beckham at Carolina. I'm going to give the edge to Allen there because of the matchup. And then Cooper Kupp at Seattle versus Thalian at Philadelphia. I got to give the edge to Thalian at Philadelphia. Gurley at Seattle. Doesn't matter. I'm going to give the edge to Gurley versus Ajayi. And Allen at Cleveland versus Empty. I'm going to give the edge. Once again, I always give the edge. Call me crazy, but I always give the edge to the player that actually has somebody in the position and who's playing to the player that doesn't have anybody. Cook versus Kelsey. So Cook is playing at the Chargers versus Kelsey versus Jacksonville. I don't know. What do you think there? Because Cook can outplay Kelsey if he has one of the, the first or fourth week games. But if he doesn't, Kelsey will do much better than him, even though he's playing Jacksonville.
I think Cook's due for a, back down to earth.
I do too.
I would go.
And then he's got Kittle in there versus, who's playing versus Arizona versus Howard, who's on a bye. His defense is on a bye. You got the kicker, Lutz versus McManus, Baltimore at Cleveland. I'm hoping that Millennials are going to do some stuff here to move some players into.
Unless you're absolutely certain that Sterling Shepard is out, how do you yank him out? He's red hot.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, he got 25 points. How do you just yank him out of the lineup for Kittle when your tight end is already putting up 31? It's a head scratcher.
I don't know. A lot of this stuff. I mean, look. Kittle had a good game last week, but and then Cook did too.
I can't question it. He got 175 points. Let him do whatever. Whatever.
Yeah, but I just don't. First of all, I think Allen was a huge mistake. The only reason why he ever got any points was because, end zone 1 yard touchdowns. Look at his yardage total. 17 yards the first week, 8 yards the second week, 7 yards the third week, and then 30 yards last week. He actually got more yards than he did all season long last week, but, no touchdown. And
you put Ezekiel Elliott back on Nick's team, and he's a favorite to win it all.
Yeah, I know, especially since he could have played Kupp and Shepard, but now Elliott's gone, and whatever. It's hard. Look, the Millennials doesn't have any other running back, so I don't even know he's got to pick somebody up to put in there. I don't know who he puts in at the bye. I guess Aguilar or bunches of Funchies or even Watson. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna give the edge in this game to Nick. Look, I don't know. The Millennials is going to have to make some moves in order to do something here. And then, if he doesn't, then, if he does do that, then he can maybe win this game. But, look, he's suffering from the buys right now. And because of that, look, Nick's got his full complement of players. So, especially given what I see now, which is what I got to make this prediction off of, I got to go with Nicky Baby.
I'm going to go with Nicky Baby, too. Thielen is solid. You can't mess with that. And Beckham, he's having a pretty solid season. Jay Ajayi has been injured. He doesn't even have the option to go with Howard and Cohen. They're both on a bye. Wow. Where is Howard? Oh, yeah, well. Didn't he have Howard? Where's Jordan Howard?
He's right now he's playing him in the flex on a bye.
Okay, never mind. Millennials I think is definitely suffering from the bye this week. To go such Chicago heavy, that's really put him in a bind.
Yeah.
Surprising. I was surprised that he'd be waylaid like this, but the Chicago bye is really devastating. He doesn't have a team. It's very interesting. I think Nick. No wonder Nick can put in. Nick can do whatever he wants. This should be because of the buy situation. And unless Millennials make some surprising free agent moves,
right?
Right now he's got to pick up. He has to feel the defense. An RB2. So his RB2 could be Duke Johnson, which I'm not very scary actually. Really, that's the only option unless he wants to pick one up. And then his defense you literally have to have a defense. I don't think he's going to throw Chicago in the shitter because they're pretty good. So he'll probably drop Pryor on the Jets. He's horrid. You could probably drop. There's some people he can drop, but unless you're not going to play, leave the spot blank. Millennials is actually an interesting situation. He's going to have to actually maybe drop somebody he doesn't want to drop.
Yeah.
Just to feel the team.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. And this could be so he lost the first week, and then he got like 157 the second week and 146, I think, the third week. Then he took the loss last week, which was a difficult loss for him. And now, he could be somewhat of on a losing streak. It was really looking like he could do really well. For a little bit there, through weeks 2 and 3, and now he might be going through a really difficult stretch. So I don't know, but I'm definitely picking Nick.
Interesting. Yeah, I will pick Nick on this one just because of his 170 potential every week.
Well, no, look, there would be some weeks where I wouldn't pick Nick, because I just don't think he's going to get the 170s, consistently. I just think that, look, Cook is going to come back down to earth, I think. Allen, Kupp is not going to get 37. I don't think Nick is going to get, anywhere near that, but I just think he's playing an opponent right now this week that doesn't have, that's really hurt by the buys. He doesn't have any, he really can't afford to drop people. He's just in a bind this week. I think Nick caught him on a good week to catch him. Okay, let's move on to what do we have left? Nicky.
We had a team that was 2-0. You want to go Nick and Jamie? Or that's probably the best matchup of the week. Let's save that for last.
Okay.
Let's go to Blues and Trey.
All right. Blues were. I mean, this is a pretty good matchup too. These are, look, it seems like everybody's a 2-2 team versus another 2-2 team, except for a couple, except for the teams that are playing the Lightning Rods and Dr. Hockey. Everything else is a pretty competitive matchup standing wise, and these are really important games early on because it makes a difference between whether or not you're going to be over 500 or under 500. As we start to move, into the October month, and then we're not at the halfway point of the season yet, but we're getting pretty close. We're 2 weeks away from that. So, all right. The Blues, we have Phillip Rivers versus Oakland versus Roethlisberger versus Atlanta. I'm going to give the edge to Phillip Rivers there. I don't think Roethlisberger has been that good. I mean, the good thing for him is that he's at least at home this time. But I don't think he played terribly on Sunday night. I said that I didn't watch any games this week. I did watch the last quarter of the Pittsburgh game, and he looked atrocious. So, look, like I said, Atlanta might, they give up some points. They get points and they give up some points, but I got to give the edge to Rivers, especially against Oakland here. And you have Diggs and AJ Green. Looks like he's back. So Diggs at Philadelphia, AJ Green versus Miami against Marvin Jones Jr. versus Green Bay, and Amari Cooper. It looks like he's going on the Cooper, which means he'll get no points this week. So, Jones is actually one of the few receivers who didn't get that many points last week for Detroit. I'm definitely giving the wide receiver edge here to Lombardi. Then you got David Johnson and Deion Lewis versus Saquon and Carlos Hyde. I'm going to give the edge. So Barkley at Carolina, Hyde versus Baltimore, Johnson at San Francisco, Lewis at Buffalo. Look, the matchups I think favor Lombardi's running backs. I just think that the running backs for Tillett are better. So I'm going to give him the edge there. So I'm giving the edges. So quarterback edge to Lombardi, wide receiver edge to Lombardi. I'm going to give the edge in the running backs to Tillett Trey. Tight end Ebron versus Jordan Reed. Ebron playing at New England on Thursday night. Jordan Reed at New Orleans on Monday night. I'm going to give Reed the edge, I guess, I think. I don't know. And it looks like Lombardi's playing Davis at Buffalo. I mean, after a 31-point outpouring last week, and he's going against Buffalo, how could you not play him? I think that's the right play to make. And then Lockett versus the Rams. I'm definitely giving the edge to Lombardi there. And then Gould is the kicker, and Bryant and Philadelphia and New England as the defenses. All right, I'm going to go with Lombardi.
Now, normally I would second that, but Lombardi, what concerns me is the 78 points. And Tillett Trey can beat that. I'm not worried about Tillett Trey overcoming 78 points. Lombardi did get 128 last week, and Tillett Trey got 113. Because of that, I'm gonna lean towards Lombardi. I'm just concerned about the games where they get sub 100. I want to see what's happening there. Because that would have even just beat Audwin. Audwin almost could have won a game like that. I'm going to say the Blues is going to put up 120, 130 again. So I'm going to go Blues. I'm going to keep my eye on Amari Cooper, though. I mean, Tillett, if he gets 1 point again or doesn't do anything, I don't know what Tillett's going to do with this guy.
I like actually. I don't know what I would do with in a Mike Evans situation or a Amari Cooper situation. I mean, I think I would just get so frustrated. I don't think I would bench him though, because I don't want anybody else to get him, because it would piss me off when the other person had him and he did well. I think I would just create a memorial bench position for them, and they're just not playing. Oh well, I'm screwed. Mm-hmm. I'll just play one last bench spot.
Also has Mike Evans on his team, just on a bye.
I know, ironic.
But the Mike Evans memorial position is actually taken up by Mike Evans.
I guess that's why he has to play him. Yeah, no. Look, it is possible for Tillett Trey to win this game, but I'm certainly giving the edge to Lombardi. I think that I think the matchups
for another ability is rare or slim, but that's what gives me pause. Yeah. But I'm going to pick Lombardi in this one.
No, I am too. All right, that moves us on to the last game of the week. the one that you want to talk about, Nick and Jamie versus the Mighty Whalers. I do agree this is a very good game and a really interesting matchup. All right, so the projection right now is 127.79 to 135.18 in favor of Nick and Jamie. No, sorry, in favor of the Whalers, excuse me. 55% favorite for the Whalers at this point. Let's look at this. All right, so interestingly, Cam Newton going versus the Giants. The Giants last week who held Breeze to under 10, I think 8 points. Going against Flacco with his rotating turnstile of quarterbacks this week, he decided to go with the defending championship quarterback. I mean, that's a recipe for greatness, as we've all seen. Yeah. And Joe Flacco at Cleveland. I think just for that, I might pick them, making championship-like decisions. Okay. I actually might give the edge to Flacco in this game. Legitimately, jokingly, but even legitimately. Tate versus Brown. So Tate versus Green Bay and Antonio Brown versus Atlanta. I think Antonio Brown will do okay in this game just because of the high-scoring nature of the game. But Tate could have a really good game too because, like we said, Detroit loves to hand out some points. And then it looks like Edelman is finally making a return into the game versus Indianapolis versus Galladay versus Green Bay, who will also get that Detroit point output. Do you think Edelman... Okay, so I actually... What are your thoughts on Edelman this game? Because I wonder, first of all, that New England offense doesn't scare me, first of all. Second of all... it's his first game back. Does that mean that he's going to try to get him the ball more often? Does that mean that maybe he's a little rusty? I mean, what do you think about Edelman in this situation?
Well, right out the gate, I think they go out of their way to get him the ball, I'm sure. Now, what this means for Nick and Jamie, is Edelman like a monster? Is he going to have like a Brandon Cooks-like impact? I don't think so, at least not early. So I think a lot of the hoopla around Edelman, because they picked up Josh Gordon and the other guy, I think Corey Davis?
Coleman.
Coleman, right. Mm-hmm. Corey Coleman. It's intriguing what the Patriots are doing. Like, if I'm Edelman, why are you picking up all these guys? I'm coming back next week. What does that mean for me exactly? So with Gronk struggling, I can't read the Patriots right now. If James White's the only one I actually want to have on that team.
Hogan's dog shit. I have no idea. I wouldn't want any of the receivers. Yeah. We saw what Burkhead used to do.
Sony Michel on their bench had 17 points last week, so he could be the running back to start. Nick and Jamie have some interesting decisions to make.
Because they're so Patriots heavy, which is the really interesting thing. And that's the thing with the Patriots. You never know what Belichick's going to do. So, I don't know.
It's interesting. They're keeping, even with Edelman coming back, they're going double tight end. So what do you think about that?
I don't know why they keep sticking with Graham. I don't think that but look, at Detroit, I think that's good. I mean, Gronk versus Indianapolis. I mean, what's going on in their bench that they're... because Gronk has not been that impressive. Who else would they start? Jones, I guess? Yeldon. I actually would start Yeldon, to be honest with you, at the flex. Or even the Michelle guy. But again, you're really heavily replying. I don't know if I'd start the Michelle guy. What?
They're 4-0, so you can't really say anything. So it's just mere speculation.
Sure, but I'm saying, the reason why you don't want to, you don't want to play Michelle, especially on Thursday night. Do you really want to lock up your entire team on Thursday? If something goes wrong, you're in a lot of trouble, to start out the gate. I think I would put in Yeldon at the flex. I think that would be one of the decisions I would make.
Interesting.
But yeah, as far as the two tight ends, I don't think I'd play. Graham might have an okay game this week at Detroit. I don't know. I think this is one of those situations where if I was actually coaching, and this was the situation I found myself in, I would watch the Thursday night games, and then assess after that. But I really do think that my instinct would be to play Yeldon this week.
All right. And then flipping over to, you have the Whalers.
Yeah.
Now,
Kamara and
Flacco, I
Mixon.
mean, championship. Championship pick up there by the Whalers. Nicely done. After going to Stersky and Eli Manning and Marcus Mariota, he's finally found himself a winner, okay? Joe Flacco's a proven winner. I can tell you that firsthand. Okay? Basically, he was the only one left after Eugene shaft me anyway, but he is a winner, okay? Proven winner. Antonio Brown has been underwhelming, surprisingly. Galladay has been all right. He's been, get you double digits.
He's been whelming. Galladay has been whelming.
Well, this guy, Kamara, is just like, he's the Todd Gurley of this year.
He is, but here's the question. How much do you think Ingram coming back affects him?
That's actually a very interesting question. Does that eat into his carries? I'll be very interested to see how he does, because, I mean, if you look at his numbers, 43 and 41, those are quarterback numbers.
Yeah.
And then 34, I mean, good Lord, this guy. But with Ingram coming back and then Edelman coming back, both of these teams actually have somebody coming back that can eat into their touches. I'm intrigued. Mixon is back already.
Yeah.
He was only supposed to 2 to 4 weeks, so I guess he's hungry to get back onto the field.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you have to put Bernard.
Frankly, Bernard has been better than I think Mixon has been when Mixon was in. I mean, like, what were Mixon's numbers the first couple weeks? I'll look at this.
Right before
25 the first week, and then 9.7, I guess, which was the week they went down. No, Mixon. Okay, never mind. I take it back.
Yeah, and then suffering from the same issues as everybody else at tight end with Hooper.
So he picks up.
Hockey.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't even know when this happened, when hockey dropped this guy, but God.
He must have dropped him mid-podcast. And I guess we're gonna have a Doug Baldwin sighting.
Oh, are we?
Yeah. So
against the Rams, interesting.
And then we're gonna have the rest. This is an interesting matchup, actually, because Whalers has really come back. It's hard to bet against him. He's on a roll. Nick and Jamie
is really
they're 4-0. By due diligence, I have to go with Nick and Jamie on this one. That's who I'm picking, because they are 4-0. I mean, come on.
So, I mean, the interesting thing about this game to me is I think, both of these teams have some weaknesses, like, both at flex, I question how good these flex players are going to do. There's the question mark about Kamara in terms of Ingram, how he's going to do, when, if that's going to cut into his touches. Then you have Edelman dealing with, just coming back, and we don't know how he's going to do. Man, I mean, my gut tells me to go with the Whalers. But it depends on how this plays out. I mean, Hunt is going to play versus Jacksonville. I mean, we'll know pretty early on. I mean, because how many players are playing in this New England game for Nick and Jamie? First of all, their entire bench almost. Then you have Edelman, and you have White, and you have Gronkowski just in the game. And then Goskowski. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 of the actual plays. 4 of 9. And then 1... so 5, and then Michelle on the bench. So 5 of their players of their entire team going, and then you have, Hilton out, you have Parker questionable. Yeah, I mean, like, this is basically the team they're going to roll with, and they're all playing Thursday night, so we'll know pretty early. And Whalers will actually know pretty early what he needs to do and what he needs to go up against, because he actually has nobody playing on Thursday, so that's pretty interesting. But I'm actually going to pick the Whalers.
Oh, interesting. Well, picking against the 4-0 team. I like that. And then you've got, what do you think about Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard? I think that's interesting in Cincinnati. I mean, I guess you got to go Mixon, but Bernard's actually been very solid.
He's been very solid, but in replacing Mixon. So now that Mixon is back, I think Bernard's numbers are going to drop significantly. And, Mixon should take over those numbers. I mean, it's the right call. I don't know about Hooper. I mean, Hooper's been, whatever. I mean, but like we said, there's nobody in tight end anyway. Of course, he's going against the team that has 2 tight ends. But yeah. I just see the name of a player that used to be, that has the taint of Dr. Hockey, and I'm like, I don't know. But he could be a good player, but yeah, I'm just like, he's a MAGA player. I just don't.
So he's taking a hockey player and he's taking an ex-Hagler this week.
Interesting. All right. So yeah, really interesting week. I mean, is there anything else that you want to say about this game?
No, this could be a matchup of the week.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I know certainly my game is not going to be. Yeah, so really interesting game. There's so many 2-2 teams going against each other. Actually, there's not. There's only two games with 2-2 players going against each other. You have Nick and Jamie going against the Whalers. You have Miner going against Eugene. All right, so what's lock of the week, upset of the week?
Lock of the week is not even a question. It's, 3 years over Dr. Hockey in a absolute massacre. Again, this could be a 100-point differential blowout.
Well, because I don't really involve myself in such things, my lock of the week is going to be Dave's Secret Crush Eugene beating Miner's team.
Upset of the week. I would hate to say this. I really don't want to say it, but Lightning Rods over the Haglers. Because this is the first time that, we don't score in the 170s. So, he's finally catching a break where the Haglers can get sub 100. It's been very common. And we always win one, lose one. So this could be a problem. So I'm going to take the upset of the week to actually be the Lightning Rods.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, that is a possibility. I mean, I still think the upset of the week, I guess, technically would be the Whalers beating Nick and Jamie. Frankly, there's a lot of the lock of the weeks that I could do right here. I mean, I think Nicky Baby is almost the lock of the week against Fitzmagic because they're so, they're hurt by all the buys. But I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to go with... so my lock of the week will be Eugene, Dave's Secret Crush, rebounding it, and my upset of the week is going to be the Mighty Whalers, making the undefeated defeated. And so poor Eugene no longer could be the 72 Dolphins that he was talking about. I know. Yes. All right. Anything else? I mean, this is an important week. I mean, all right, so, you have the 4-0 Nick and Jamie, and then 2-3-1 teams, the 16-0-3ers and Dave's Secret Crush, and then at the bottom of the barrel, you have Make Godwin Great Again and the Lightning Rods. The Lightning Rods do need this game, so if they are going to be the upset of the week, this is the time that they need to have it, because we're getting dangerously close. I mean, we've talked about, 7 wins, and it's almost impossible to make the playoffs. I mean, 7 is the cutoff. 6 is, even that is getting tough, but 7, and they're more than halfway to that at this point.
No, you mean 7 losses,
7 losses. That's what I meant. Yeah, the 7 losses.
And you're out basically.
Yeah,
for the most part,
sorry,
you're out.
Right. So they're 3 losses away from being out, and we're just in October, so they need a win this week.
Right. So to say that they can run the rest of the table is highly unlikely. So yeah, now would be a great spot for a win.
Yeah, which is why I think that the Haglers do have to look out for them, and I think it is an opportunity for an upset of the week. I'm not going to pick it, but I think that there is possibility to do there. I do think that the Haglers are going to win that game, but there is. It's very different than last week.
Eliminated immediately. I think hockey will be the first team to be eliminated as soon as any team could possibly be eliminated. Hockey will be eliminated.
Oh yeah, I think he's going to be like the Browns. I mean, look. I mean, if you just look at the score, I mean, he has 402 points for the season. That's more than 100 less than the next person, I think. Well, I don't know, more than 100 less than his cousin, who has 506. So, so I mean, you look at the difference. I mean, like I said, you look at the record for the two teams that you've played. These 2 weeks in a row, 0-4 and 0-4. 0-3 and then 0-4. But the difference between the two teams it could not be more stark. I mean, 100 extra points for the Lightning Rods, and and I think as long as the Haglers actually are mindful of that and and don't allow themselves to fall into a trap game and like treat this game seriously, I do think that they should be able to come away with a win, but you don't know. All right. Yeah, but good week, an important week as we move to October now. First quarter of the season is in the books. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens from this point forward. Anything else on this week or anything else in general?
Nope. We look forward to these matchups. Good luck, everyone.
Yep. Good luck. See you next week. Bye-bye, everyone.
All right. Peace out.